Hello and welcome to our final session of our 48th annual conference. My name is Jason. Let's clap. We can clap for that. My name is Jason Guilbeau. I use he and him pronouns. I am a tall person with a dark beard and dark hair, blue glasses, and I'm wearing a blue vest and blue shirt. My next costume change will be into my pajamas, so nothing for y'all this afternoon. We've spent the past few weeks and even months learning about the Dakota people who are the caretakers of this land. I hope that you are able to engage with the Minneapolis St. Paul syllabus, the Why Treaties Matter exhibit, or one of the sessions led by our local and community engagement committee. Since we'll return to this space again as visitors in 2024, our learning will not stop once we leave today, as it shouldn't. And I invite you to continue thinking about the Dakota people, as well as the lands that you'll soon return to. At this time, I'd like to invite my good friend and our first ever inaugural conference committee chair, Dr. Leslie Gonzalez, to the stage for one final time for this conference to provide you with her reflections and celebrations of these past few days.
Y'all remember a few years ago when I got up here and said, goodbye, peace out? It's true this time. So I think. Good afternoon, everyone. Here we are, last day, last event. We've made it. As Jason shared, my name is Leslie Gonzalez. I go by she, pronouns. I am a short woman with long black hair, medium-colored skin, and I am proudly wearing a yellow shirt that calls to indigenize ash over a long orange dress. I'm a professor of higher education at Michigan State, which sits on the ancestral and contemporary homelands of the Anishinaabe peoples. In my closing comments, I will restate much of what I shared a few days ago, so please bear with me with a little repetition. I'll be beginning with expressing support without reservation for the Palestinian and Jewish members of our community. And as I did a few days ago, I ask again that you call, email, tweet at your congressional representatives to demand a ceasefire in solidarity with Gazans. Over the last year or so, I've had the privilege of working behind the scenes with ASH's inaugural conference committee, which consists of five small work groups focused on attendee engagement, accessibility, wellness, local community engagement, and the scholarly program committee. The idea for a conference committee came about a few years ago as ASH board leadership had two insights. The first insight was that some of the most meaningful efforts associated with our annual conference exceeded the scholarly program. And the second related insight was that ASH has not only the obligation, but the privilege to serve a robust and diverse community of practitioners, leaders, and scholars. And in serving, we have the opportunity, the responsibility to model a solidarity politic that advances accessibility, inclusion, and wellness for all. So I'm going to now take the time to summarize a few of the wonderful contributions that the inaugural conference committee made to our conference experience this year. Again, bear with repetition, but it's worth restating for sure. Beginning with the Local Community Engagement Committee, chaired by Drs. Lopez and Del Mar. LCEC was formally launched in 2021 by Drs. Heather Schotten and Awilda Rodriguez, but ignited by the work and labor of the Land Acknowledgement Working Group and in the Indigenous Scholars Collective several years prior. In short, LCEC has helped the ASH community to engage more deeply and meaningfully in place-based learning so that we might be better visitors wherever we attend a conference. This year, LCEC laid a beautiful foundation for next year's efforts. LCEC reached out to the Minnesota Humanities Center to host the Why Treaties Matter exhibit. Elder Tad Johnson, an enrolled member of the Boy Fort Band of Chippewa and a leader in higher education, led a wonderful discussion on Thursday evening concerning land and tribal sovereignty, among many other related issues. The Local and Community Engagement Committee also hosted two presidential sessions, one with a focus on reclamation and reconciliation efforts, and another with an explicitly BIPOC-led discussion, one led by explicitly BIPOC leaders from the Minneapolis area. These events extended the work of our land acknowledgement work and syllabus to not only have words written on paper, but to develop relationships beyond and within the community. On the accessibility work group, chaired by Drs. Koren, Stevens-Peace, Blake, and Karpich, the Accessibility Committee provided excellent guidance as we planned this conference, nudging all of us to think more inclusively about access work. For example, earplugs were made available to you at check-in, as were masks and hand sanitizer. Each session room was stocked with a laptop that was preset with captioning, so that all presenters had to do was plug in and talk so that live captioning would be available. To those of you who use the laptops, thank you for attending to that inclusion measure. To those of you who consistently use microphones, thank you for attending to that inclusion measure. And as a reminder, we can all continue to build our knowledge and solidarity with disabled scholars, students, and community members when we return to our campuses by reading and relying on the End Statement Guide to guide our work on campus. I want to also recognize the wonderful work of the Wellness Committee, chaired by Dr. Talusan and graduate student extraordinaire, Amy Collinsworth. Wellness designed and redesigned several events and spaces to ensure we were staying well during our time together. For example, Wellness offered a chat and chill session where they facilitated small conversations about how to create healthier writing practices. They also designed welcoming and thoughtful low sensory rooms and spirituality and prayer room, and as I understand it, these spaces were widely used. Thank you for that work. And finally, to make sure we all knew where we were going and what we had the opportunity to enjoy, I want to celebrate the work of the Attendee Engagement Committee, chaired by Drs. Kiyama and McLeod. This committee launched the Welcome Wednesday webinars, the Newcomer Breakfast, well, this is a tradition, but they redid it this year, which was highly attended, and a reception to celebrate recently promoted folks in our field. And of course, thank you to the program committee, led by Drs. Boatman and Blanco, and to all of you, the dreamers, the knowledge creators, the presenters, the reviewers, the supporters, the folks who nod your head when somebody is presenting in the audience. And of course, to the discussants for giving so generously of your time and wisdom. As the inaugural conference committee, we strove to create an atmosphere in and around ASHE where our varying experiences, needs, and wisdoms might help form a better experience for you. I want to thank the conference committee once again for their work. We learned, unlearned, we built community as we sought to better serve all of you, our colleagues, our friends, our mentors, and of course, one another. As I very happily wrap up this role and pass the baton to Dr. Hiro Okahana and to incoming President Jeni Hart, I want to express my deepest thanks to the ASHE staff. You all are simply amazing. The conference committee dreamed and you implemented. I extend my deepest gratitude to President Ana Martínez-Alemán and to Jason Guilbeau for allowing me to serve in this capacity. Because I truly believe, as Shirley Chisholm once advised, that service is the rent we pay for our room on earth. So I thank all of you for being here, for allowing me to serve you, for coming together to dream bigger and to shape a more inclusive possibilities for higher ed.
When Anna and I were thinking and dreaming about what a conference could be and how we could make sure that we amplify the voices of our members and have someone come into this role with love and compassion and thoughtfulness, Leslie Gonzalez came to mind. And I've been so fortunate to work with you once again, my good friend. Thank you.
Goodbye for real.
So she thinks. Picture it, Tampa, 2018. A younger Jason was attending his second ever ASHE conference and interviewing for this job to take the helm of the association. A few weeks later, as probably many recent PhD grads without a job related to my program, I was working at J.Crew and got a phone call from Chris Wren saying, "Hey, do you want this job?" I very quickly said yes. Since I started this role in January 2019, younger, cuter, few less gray hairs. Since I started this role in January 2019, we've been through a lot. In these past 5 years, I've watched many of you graduate and take new jobs. I've watched many of you earn tenure and promotion. I've watched career changes. And I've gotten some emails that while folks love ASHE, they're retiring and going to spend time on beaches instead of breakout rooms. I don't blame them. But in these past 5 years, I've been energized by the constant faith in this community that so many of you share. While we often say the association, and sometimes, yes, we are the ASHE industrial complex, I do view us as a community. So like many of you do after your first 5 years in a job, I'm submitting to each of you my materials for tenure and promotion. Chris and Jeni told me that doesn't exist, but I'm still gonna try. But I'm still proud of everything we've accomplished, and I really want to share with you a bit about what we've been able to do over these past 5 years. Last year, we developed the ASHE Strategic Plan 2.0. Our first ever strategic plan was created in 2019 under the leadership of Chris Wren and launched in 2020. But as we know, in 2020, a global pandemic was also launched. I am proud to say that even with the pandemic, we accomplished many things from that plan. If you've been in conversations with me, you know I'll be the first to admit we don't always get it right. But we learn and we grow. Sometimes together we change things for the better. Other times, a change would have ripple effects that would disproportionately impact other members and staff. And yes, you can read that as, no, we're not extending the deadline. Over the past 5 years, we've worked to better define who we are as an association. For perhaps too long, we faced an identity crisis in that we didn't define ourselves. Reading member surveys and event surveys, what one member celebrated as an inspiring path, another was upset and couldn't understand why we were moving a certain way. Granted, we're a low consensus field, but that doesn't mean we have to be a low consensus organization. One thing that we can and should all agree on is how we share space. For example, in 2020 and 2021, we reviewed and updated our ethics policies and created our first ever code of conduct. Since then, we have employed conference ombuds and have joined the Consortium on Sexual Harassment in STEM, a group of over 100 organizations committed to and sharing resources on combating sexual harassment in scholarly organizations. We've completed 2 rounds of site selection for future conference locations, with our next set to be announced in early 2024. Stay tuned. This includes making values-based decisions on locations and intentionally selecting cities based on considerations of affordability and accessibility. This also included making a values-based decision to cancel a contract for our 2024 conference, which was to be held in New Orleans. To further highlight this decision, we sent Louisiana State and city leaders a copy of Z. Nicolazzo's book, Trans in College. We've also written more position statements than any time in our history. Since 2019, ASHE members have written or signed on to 12 position statements, including a reaffirmation of trans lives, a response to the Supreme Court DACA rulings in 2020, revised Title IX regulations in 2021, as well as signing on to an, I always get this wrong, amicus brief regarding recent affirmative action cases. We've also deepened our connection to place by leading community-engaged projects in New Orleans, San Juan, and Las Vegas through funding from Ascendium and the Spencer Foundation. Additionally, our now formalized local and community engagement committees have developed syllabi to center place and indigeneity in the host cities of our conferences. And last year, the ASHE Board of Directors updated our inclusion, equity, and organizational diversity policies to be more relevant and to create a new committee, with the chair of that committee serving as a voting board member. Thank you to Lori Patton Davis and a work group which spent a year working on these recommendations. And thank you to Tamika Ferguson for stepping into this role as inaugural committee chair. This year, as Leslie just spoke about, we created our first ever conference committee, which has been charged to work collaboratively to coordinate the conference experience. Gone are the days when the program committee chair and president are fully responsible for the conference. As we have grown from annual conferences held at airport hotels, some folks remember those days, so too have the needs of our conference. I am grateful to my good friend Leslie for stewarding this year's team, along with a few hiccups along the way, as the inaugural conference committee chair. And something that is always ongoing work, we continue to strengthen the conference proposal review process, providing enhanced trainings to section chairs and learning opportunities for our reviewers. We've also enhanced our support to conference presenters by developing presenter guides with template schedules and materials. And we continue to develop resources for discussants. But again, this is ongoing work that we will continue, including with a strategic work group in 2024. I appreciate the work of our program committee chairs and program committees to think intentionally about this important aspect of our membership and conference experience. I also appreciate all of you who volunteer your time to serve as reviewers, chairs, and discussants. Over the past 3 years, as well, to support your career journeys, we've realigned and reimagined professional development events to be hosted virtually and throughout the year. This is compared to pre-pandemic, where everything was pretty much shoved into the schedule on the Wednesday of the conference. Our event chairs, committees, and panelists have created truly meaningful experiences. This work has coincided with the creation of a professional development committee in 2020. I am grateful to Gloria Crisp, who has served as the inaugural chair of this committee. Through this group's work, we've completed an environmental scan both internally and externally to determine and fill gaps in our offerings. If you've attended an event, we hope to see you at another one soon. If you haven't, checked out our offerings, which are priced at $35 or less for half and full day events. We will continue to expand these offerings in 2024 and beyond to include workshops for newly tenured and or promoted faculty, media engagement, as well as new micro-learning opportunities. And when it comes to our publication, The Review of Higher Education, editors Tom Nelson Laird and Penny Pasquay have made major advances. This includes expanding the diversity of the editorial board and continuing to humanize the review process. Importantly, the review's journal impact factor has moved upward during the tenure of Tom and Penny, as shown in the 4 bars on the right, which represent the years when Tom and Penny have served as editors of RHE. To be able to do all of this and more, one of my proudest achievements is that we've grown from 2 full-time staff members and 3 graduate assistants to 5 full-time staff members. I'm sure you've seen them throughout the past few days, but the dream team of Alicia, who brings thoughtfulness to our work, Briante, who is caring and compassionate, Naomi, whose creativity always inspires me, and Aaron, who always advocates for my members, is nothing less than amazing. I'm also fortunate that 2 of our former graduate assistants continue to come back to the conference. Haley Adams, who is never afraid to call me out, and Sarah, who always helps to keep me calm. Thank you. One of our consistent conversations amongst the staff is not only how do we enhance your membership experience, but how do we showcase what we already do. We'll be launching a marketing campaign over the next year to better tout our events, programs, and service. The staff is continually seeking ways to better the association, including investing in our own professional development and attending other conferences. Through all of our work and accomplishments these past 5 years, I'm also very proud to say that we've remained financially healthy as an association. Over the past 5 years combined, we've had a net surplus, allowing us to build up our rainy day and savings funds in case another world-altering event impacts our operations. And as a reminder, as a nonprofit, we're able to have a surplus. The difference with for-profit organizations is that we must reinvest these funds into the association, and we have. For example, the board has allocated some of these reserve funds to create these new staff positions. Additionally, in 2021, the board changed our budget policies to allow entity groups and councils to keep any surpluses from their budget year and allowing them to reinvest in their entities. 2 of our councils are using these funds to create new grant endowments, which means these funds are going to go back to you as members. As every nonprofit, our financial data are publicly available through GuideStar, and I am happy to have a conversation with anyone who has any questions about our financial status. I am also happy to report that our regular audit completed last year found the association not only to be financially healthy, but well managed through thoughtful processes. And while we've done a lot to remain relevant to you all, our members, along with being financially healthy, we also recognize that the ASHE of the past 48 years won't get us through the next 48. It's a great foundation, but our membership, each of you, are asking for more, and the field is demanding more. And the new strategic plan has more in store for the next few years. A work group led by the incredible Christina Yao is developing a proposal for the board on how we can be more global in our work. We know our work is very US-centric, and while I don't envision ASHE becoming a global or international association, we must consider that the world that we are in is much more connected than ever before. We also know that the structure of the association that was first created in 1976 and has been added on since then may not continue to work. Through our strategic work group on entities, led by Jennifer Johnson, group leaders within ASHE have spent the past 2 years working to develop a way for our councils and entities to become better aligned and, more importantly, better supported. Conversations are ongoing, and we're hoping for implementation during the next year. Concurrently with that work, podcast host extraordinaire Felicia Commodore and myself have led a work group to understand our committee and board structure. We know we have more work to do to support our committees, and changes are coming in 2024 to ingrain succession planning, clearer opportunities for involvement, and ways to maintain institutional memory. Our position-taking process, which I mentioned earlier, is also changing a little bit, with an opportunity for us to be more proactive. The committee, led by LaWanda Ward, will begin writing an initial set of 8 standing position statements, which were approved by the board last month, to further clarify the association's stance based on our members' research on such things as academic freedom and racial justice in higher education. And finally, we're also working to support our academic programs by launching ways to support recruitment into the field, especially at the doctoral level. We will be launching a variety of efforts over the coming years, including a hub for potential students to learn about programs and opportunities. The final piece of all of this, it's you. As a member of this community, you share responsibility for what we're doing and where we're going. This may look like running for board membership, but it also means serving as a proposal reviewer for the conference, serving on a committee, sharing information about ASHE with your colleagues and students, and telling us how we can better support you. Yes, that last point was a shameless plug to complete the surveys. There'll be one in your inbox in about 5 minutes. Also, And now I'm speaking to the folks with either power or money on campus or in your organization. Support your staff and students. It's especially important for our community that we have a balance of members throughout their career. We know our senior scholars and even mid-career scholars are getting recruited into administrative roles, and rightfully so. But please know that regardless of your title, you're also part of this community. And as you climb that ladder, be sure to advocate for and allocate funding for your students and colleagues to be part of this community. So that's it. That's what we've been up to these past few years. Obviously, I'm ready for a nap, ready for those pajamas. But I will say, over these past 5 years, I've been truly honored with some great partners in this work. At this time, I'm excited to welcome to the stage our 2023 president, Dr. Ana Martínez-Alemán. I didn't know much about Ana when I learned that she'd be on the ballot for president. My only interaction with her had been in Portland in 2019 when I needed some advice, and Chris Rinn pointed me over to this woman with a leather jacket. Yeah, I'm bringing up the leather jacket again. Not to call you out necessarily, but you just look so cool. Since then, we've gotten to know each other well. At one point, she even offered me one of her sons as a dependent so I could have an extra tax deduction. But in all seriousness, I've learned so much from her. She's decisive, yet thoughtful, witty, yet compassionate. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Ana to share a little bit about what we've been up to this past year.
Oh, for God's sake. So I have 2 sons. One is still available for free to a good home, not even a good home, just free. Gente, Ash colleagues, if we're to believe Jason, it seems that you all have done a great deal these past few years, and certainly this year I've been really seeing it firsthand. You've accomplished much, and much really has been realized. And honestly, I really wish I could take credit for it. I've done nothing. Seriously, except, of course, I knew enough not to get in the way of smart, dedicated, and thoughtful people who make leading this association feel like a wonderfully long, steady bike ride on a beautiful sunny day in Galicia, with some difficult and tricky climbs, but very, very many sweet and gratifying downhills along the way. I'd like you to please join me in thanking the many co-pilots of our association who completed this very, very much valued service to us as ASH members. The members of the board of directors dedicated to serving all of us. ASH board members now, it's not a perfunctory role. It just isn't. I remember back in the olden times when it kind of sort of was. ASH board members now serve on committees, they meet on a regular basis and continue to set the association's strategic aims, and they provide thoughtful and careful financial oversight of the association. Of the many, many conversations we had throughout this, certainly this past year and a half, it became very, very clear to me that, yeah, we're 48 years old now, and we're not, you know, we're not adolescents anymore as an organization. So at this moment, just please join me in publicly thanking each of the members of the board who end their, and let me underscore, current service, and I guess it ends in a few minutes. It's not quite yet, but anyway. So 2022 President Joy Gaston Gales will leave the board as the outgoing president. At-large board member Natasha Kroom will leave us. CPPE Chair Kayla Elliott. Fundraising and Advancement Committee Chair Noah Dresner. And I'd especially like to thank Robin Minthorn and Charlie Scott for their service on the board. Robin and Charlie are the first Indigenous members elected to the ASHE board in our 48-year history. I have appreciated them for their advocacy and service to ASHE, as well as personally all that I have learned from them. I also want to welcome the incoming board members, ASHE colleagues who exemplify professional service and collegiality. So ASHE 2025 President, Ebony Gallagher, somewhere? At-large board members, Jennifer Johnson and Cameron Beatty. Okay. Graduate student board member, Vigor Lamb. And CPPHE, I usually do too many C's and not enough P's in that. Chair, Kevin McClure. So I want us to just really stop and think about and recognize the other contributions to ASHE this past year. Lots of colleagues gave their time, and you're each sitting next to at least two of them, right? Everyone has really pitched in throughout. My time, certainly, and I think especially around two very different and very successful presidential initiatives. The first one, I know that many of you, together with your students in many cases, were able to join our ACPA ASHE Presidential Symposium in late September that was hosted by ACPA President Heather Shea and me. Our contributors discussed bridging the divide, addressing the political landscape of DEI work and scholarship in higher education. And we're grateful to Nolan Cabrera, Bridget Dwyer, Corey C. Miller, Paulette Granberry, who's the president of the National Association of Diversity Officers in Higher Education, Brian Bridges from the United Negro College Fund, Liz LaPolte Clark, who's the VP for Policy and Research at NACUBA, for their insights and very provocative recommendations. We had hundreds join the webinar, and in conversations with Heather this week, we're going to try to get an offshoot of it with certain participants, so look out for those. Secondly, if you haven't tuned in to the ASHE Presidential Podcasts and the smooth and suave sounds of Royale Johnson and Felicia Commodore, if you haven't, what are you waiting for? Guiding hands in the delivery of the ASHE Presidential Podcast series, Royale and Felicia have NPR hosts Audie Cornish, Terry Gross, and Ray Suarez very worried about job security. So I want to personally thank Royale and Felicia, and very special acknowledgments go out to our remarkable guests, Brian Brayboy, Linda Eisenman, Dimitri Morgan, Representative Harold Lloyd. Oh, no, that's wrong. Love. Sorry, my apologies. Liliana Garces, Kimberly Griffin, Arthur Kelly, Julie Purcell, Dominique Baker, Tia Caldwell, Candace Hall, and Robin Hughes. At this moment, however, in all seriousness, sadly, ASHE colleagues, I would be remiss as your president if I didn't acknowledge that a controversial comment was uttered in one of our episodes that demands our collective action. In episode 3, our colleague Dimitri Morgan. Dimitri, are you here? All right, well, you know where he is, right? He went on the record saying that Prince is overrated. Do what you will, people. Do what you will. I see nothing, I hear nothing. I also want to give testimony to what should be obvious to you all, if it isn't obvious to you already. Please do see me after class. Our executive director, Jason, is primed to be the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Not the chupacabra GOAT, but a righteously lit offensive and defensive coach that makes all of us presidential quarterbacks Hall of Fame material. So thank you, Jason. He draws up X's and O's, during your presidential year, so you really have to work hard to mess it up, I gotta tell you. And you can drive my SAG wagon on any cycling adventure anytime. So my service to you as ASHE president this past year, quite frankly, is not all that much different than any other service role I've been privileged to have in this association. My service to ASHE has always been guided by this association's distinctive aspirational character, really the membership's aspirational character, and my faith in colleagues who work to create the scaffolds in higher education's, for higher education's democratic imperatives and those compelling interests that come out of that through research and scholarship. Like all of our institutions, ASHE has been challenged by its history, but it has also benefited from that history, a history of scholars and researchers motivated to advance educational equity and deliver on higher education's democratic purposes. So ours is a history whose future must be the continuation of those very purposes. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for letting me take this ride with you and for giving me a chance to serve you. So thank you. There's a moment now. So I now have the pleasure of making a very slow introduction. Go on, keep going. Push harder. Come on, you can do it. Oh, don't, come on, don't. All right, so it's now my pleasure to hand the presidential reins over to Jeni Hart. So we will all benefit from her thoughtful, pragmatic, and prudent leadership. In Jeni, we get a president who is mindful and deferential, decisive, and principled. Her sense of humor, coupled with her appreciation for irony, love it, reveals her optimism and her connectedness to those whom she serves. What you won't get in her presidency, people, is a gourmand. Oh my God. The way to Jeni's heart and soul is through the dubious, epicurious trinity: Cheetos, Doritos, and Fritos. The O's. So ASHE colleagues, under Jeni's presidency, get ready to live mas.
Don't go far. Thank you. And as Anna said, I'm going to lock this before I roll away. As Anna said, I'm Jeni Hart. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I am a white woman with short brown hair that has like fake red highlights. Women of a certain age, understand, and probably any gender understands. I am wearing a purple sweater with black pants, a pink scarf, and a t-shirt that says, "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life." Thank you, Prince Rogers Nelson. I am honored to recognize and thank Ana Martínez-Alemán for her leadership, candor, wisdom, and love of ice cream. I have watched closely as Ana navigated political waters, negotiated differences of opinion with aplomb, and demonstrated compassion throughout the year of her presidency. In addition, under Ana's leadership, the new conference committee structure emerged. I am sure it felt a little like building the little red Corvette while driving it, but the end result allowed us to be in concert together as we critique, contemplate, question, and celebrate higher education research's purposes, politics, and practices. Thanks to Ana and the conference committee, we have a blueprint to guide the continuing evolution of the ASHE conference experience and the centrality of the many volunteers who make this conference happen. While she's a hard act to follow, I know I will be a better leader because I have followed her. In fact, Anna's scholarship has also served as a foundation for my own research, and so I'm not only a better leader, but a better scholar, thanks to Anna. Anna, here is the gavel.
I love the gavel. Thank you.
I have asked Hiro Okahana to serve as next year's conference chair. Hiro has been in consultation and able to shadow Leslie Gonzalez over the past year to prepare to further develop our conference committee structure. For 2024, the conference committee will be organized into 3 primary committees: attendee engagement, program, and local and community engagement. The Attendee Engagement Committee will include our commitment to wellness and will play a central role in identifying presidential sessions to amplify next year's conference theme. In addition to the hard work of our councils that provide the thought-provoking pre-conference programming, the Program Committee's primary responsibility is to shape the conference program through the outstanding scholarly contributions of our community. The Local and Community Engagement Committee will continue the work of this year's committee to meaningfully engage with the community in the core work of ASHE. Rather than having a separate accessibility committee, accessibility advisors will be connected with each of the 3 committees to better align the work of each committee with ASHE's aim for disability justice. Also, we are adding an Indigenous advisor to each of the committees to continue embedding decolonization work. We will also have a paid accessibility coordinator on site to assist with access throughout the conference. As an association, we have made great strides to embrace our values of inclusion, equity, and organizational diversity, integrity, and the advancement of knowledge. And we have more work to do. In line with our strategic plan, I hope that through this next year, we can continue to advance our values. Inspired in part by the Access Unstatement developed for this year's conference, I want to lead us to incorporate more concentrated work on disability justice that extends far beyond this conference. I also want to commission a work group to better understand and advocate for service to the field by considering the following questions. How is service an act of scholarship? And how do we sustain a largely service volunteer-led organization with the complicated conceptualizations of service? Finally, I plan to appoint a commission to help us understand how the association should respond to AI and then develop programs, resources, and tools to do so. The theme for this year's conference, in Anna's words, gave us an opportunity to reflect on what it is we do now as higher education researchers, to learn from one another, and to be scholarly snoopers. This year's theme gave us the occasion to reflect on what the future demands of our research. The theme for 2024 intends to not only consider what we do, but who we are. The theme for next year is I Am a Scholar. Thanks. The intent of this theme, I Am a Scholar, is to not only consider our own identities as scholars, but to consider who we are as a scholarly community. Before providing a little more about this theme, I would like us to engage in an exercise. Please take out a mobile device, tablet, or computer, whatever you have with you. You'll see a QR code behind me on the screens, and we are going to create a word cloud collectively. So in a few words, respond to the following prompt. What does it mean to you to be a scholar? I apologize for the motion of the word cloud. You can tell when words change sizes, multiple people have said it, so there's constant motion here. All right, it seems to be slowing down. Please feel free to continue to add to the cloud. I love how curiosity is centered in this word cloud. Badass in the backyard, folks. As you can see, many of us have similar ideas. However, we see so much complexity in this word cloud. This suggests that we come to this community from a variety of positionalities, epistemologies, methodologies, and other locations. It is this richness that makes being in a community of scholars energizing and often challenging. I came to this theme in part because of my own experience early in ASHE. After I had graduated from my doctoral program, my first faculty position was at Southeast Missouri State University. And for those who do not know where that is, it's in Southeast Missouri. That first ASHE as a tenure track faculty member, I remember being approached by other scholars, have them look at my name tag, and walk away. Where is Southeast Missouri State? You clearly can't be a scholar if you're from Southeast Missouri State. Now, people weren't that blatant, but that was kind of the message I was getting. And the very next year, I had a position at the University of Missouri where I am now. And attending that conference was different. People didn't second guess who I was as a scholar. I was at a large research university, an AAU at that. Somehow I became a scholar. And I was no different than I was the year before, or as a graduate student, or as a practitioner before that. And that experience has stuck with me after, I don't know, that was after 21 years. And so that really gave me the foundation to think about who is a scholar, and the fact that I am, and each one of you in this room, and each of those who can't be with us today are also scholars. Throughout the next year, and through the 2024 conference that leads up to ASHE's 50th anniversary, I invite you to consider dismantling the hierarchies that have been constructed about who is worthy of the title scholar. I believe these often create barriers to better policy, practice, and scholarship. We all continue to sit in a place of being and becoming scholars. My becoming is marked by my work as a dean, my conversations with colleagues, what I learn from reading others' work, whether I agree or disagree with it. I learn from my mentors. I learn from my graduate students, from graduate students writ large, who have invited me to be part of their academic journeys. This is the process of lifelong learning and becoming. As you reflect, think about what we learn from the knowledge shared by graduate students, by faculty, by those engaged in association work, by those who are independent scholars, by those at institutions that are different from the ones in which we work. These barriers simply serve to create animosity and imposter syndrome. Moreover, if equity and inclusion are among our values, how do assumptions about who can and should be a scholar limit what we can accomplish as a community? We must embrace our scholarly selves, which includes our humanity, thanks to Joy Gaston-Gales, and subsequently the humanity of others. I believe we become better scholars by doing so, and we create better scholarship at the same time. Higher education and the communities in which we work and live are faced with vexing, complex, and wicked problems. We need all of our scholarly selves to find solutions and actively work toward our purpose and the purpose of higher education. I invited Hiro Okahana to be next year's conference committee chair, in part because he is a scholar and he does not work at a college or university. Hiro and I invited co-chairs for the conference committee to embrace the myriad contributions of scholars. Those who are in academic leadership, those who are at large research and more regional institutions, those who are graduate students, those who are practitioners, those who are public scholars, those who do community-based scholarship, among many other unique positionalities. I'm excited at the possibilities for ASHE 2024 as these folks guide our experiences together. Amanda Carr, Tabitha Cruz, Gina Garcia, Tania Mitchell, Rosie Perez, and Jonathan Pryor. If members of the conference committee are here in the room, as you are comfortable and able, please stand, wave, or otherwise recognize yourselves. I am grateful for their leadership and for the time, creativity, and energy they will contribute, along with the many folks who have accepted the invitation from the co-chairs to serve on the attendee engagement program and local and community engagement committees. And if any of these folks are in the room, as you are comfortable and able, please stand, wave, or otherwise recognize yourself. Returning to Minneapolis next year will allow us to engage even more deeply in this space and place. We must continue to reflect on the questions posed to us in the learning about purpose, politics, and practices in the homeland of the Dakota Ayote people. Being back in this hotel means that navigating accessible routes will not require new psychic and physical labor for many of us, so that we can embrace the purpose of ASHE and be more fully present in this community. While it is exciting to explore new locales, a return to a place familiar can bring comfort and opportunity to think even more critically about what we have learned this year and further invest in the communities that have allowed us to visit and to be and become our scholarly selves. Thanks to one of our Minnesota colleagues, Ben Marcy, I was recently reminded of the words of Prince Rogers Nelson, responding to Oprah Winfrey's concern about how someone could live in a place that is so cold. And it should be colder here, just so you know. Of his beloved Minnesota, Prince exclaimed that the cold keeps the bad people out. My good ASHE colleagues, we will return to Minnesota next year and celebrate what it means to be scholars. I look forward to seeing you back here. Thank you. And I welcome Jason back up to the stage as I roll away.
2024 is going to be a great year. Thank you, Jeni, for your vision of who we are as an association and who we are each individually as scholars. I hope you enjoy your remaining time here in Minneapolis tonight and tomorrow. Safe travels back. We'll see you here next year, same time, same place. Thank you.